Hi, and welcome back to the Gravity Tennis Podcast. My name is Scott, and I'm a USPTA Elite Certified Coach with over 20 years teaching experience, and I'm also the creator of Gravity Tennis. Today I want to talk about chronic tennis injuries. Now, chances are if you've been playing tennis for a while, you've experienced either tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, or some sort of tendinitis of the rotator cuff or Achilles tendons. And so I want to talk a little bit about how they happen and how you can cure them, or if you can cure them. So generally speaking, these are in a category of injuries known as chronic overuse, which means we're tending to rely too much on the region of the body at which the injuries occur. And so that is why you tend to get an inflammation or a breaking down of the tendons in that region. Now, there are a number of ways to get out of this. First and foremost, if you're experiencing a lot of pain in a particular area, you need to rest that area, which means you have to take a little bit of a break. The second thing that people often find helpful is some sort of massage to that area. The third is some sort of rehab to strengthen that region for when you come back to the court. But one thing that really doesn't get discussed is your technique and how that contributes to the injury. We tend to think of these kinds of chronic injuries as unavoidable or a luck of the draw, but I want you to think about some of the greatest tennis players of the most recent generation and who tends to get injured and who doesn't. The one I'm particularly thinking of is Roger Federer. Roger Federer was able to play tennis injury-free, even though he played at a very high level from the age of 18, and he didn't really experience his first major injury until his mid-30s. So he was able to play for 17 years at the highest level of the game without any major injuries. And my hypothesis, and I'm not a doctor, this is a hypothesis, with some anecdotal evidence as well, is that Federer's low-impact technique is a major reason for his longevity. And when I started developing Gravity Tennis, my intention wasn't to create a injury prevention system per se. However, I did notice that the more relaxed that I played, the less stress I was putting on my joints. And I started to discover that this system worked particularly well for players who experienced chronic injuries. And it sort of makes sense. If you're playing with a lot of tension, you're naturally going to put more stress on the smaller and weaker joints and begin to overuse them. And on the flip side of it, the more you can relax and use your momentum to your advantage, the less likely you are to injure those weak areas. For instance, the wrist and elbow. The wrist and elbow should be relatively loose when you're playing tennis. Now, the elbow does need to pronate and supinate for sure, but if you are fighting against the inertia of your racket in order to create racketed speed, you're going to be much more likely to overuse that part of your body than if you're using more of a flow and more of a sense of momentum in your stroke. So if you find that you struggle with these chronic injuries, by all means, you should take the rehab route and see a physical therapist and get the rest and the rehab that your body needs. But if this is something that occurs on a regular basis to you, or you have some injuries that you've been struggling with for a long time, I would encourage you to see if you can play with a more relaxed style in your game and see if a lower impact approach would help. If it's something that you're interested in learning more, I've got tons of videos that you can see for free, and you're also welcome to check out my brand new course, The Gravity Tennis Method, on my website, which is gravitytennis.com. If you go to that website, on the front page, you will see a free relaxation checkpoint that's completely free to download. And so feel free to go there if you think that'll be of some help. That'll do it for this podcast. Thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Stay loose, everyone.